Thought I would do a quick review of this Diago road case for pedals and other guitar gear. As you can see, it might not look like the one you're thinking of buying because I've made some modifications to it, which I'll talk about here. So I bought this case. It's quite a good size. It's the biggest one. I'll provide a link below to the specs for this guy, but I wanted something that would fit my Vox Tone Lab, so it's and my GTX vocal processor, and which I also use for a looper. So everything fits in here. This was the only case at the time I was looking that would fit all this stuff. It's a little wider than I need, or I should say, deeper width-wise than I would need, but the length across for the volume pedal here. I've got a volume pedal, and you can see my finger's damaged, so I'm not playing any guitar here. And they fit across there just nicely. It came with Velcro tape, and I've got my B9 pedal in there and a power bar and stuff tidied up. So good is it fits everything, and it's got carpeting inside. It's got padding in the lid. As you can see, supports the gear pretty well in there. I like the way the latch on the back here unclips very easily. I'm just doing this with one hand, and clips back in, and that seems pretty reliable on that side. Now, for the issues, why I probably wouldn't buy this again if I could find something aluminum. Part of the issue is just the sheer weight of this wooden case. It's a wooden sort of rough Tolexy covered case. It's got good corners on it, but the weight of this particle board, or whatever it's made of, is quite immense. It's got to weigh 30 pounds empty. With those pedals you saw in here, it weighs about 52 pounds. So it's like carrying a decent combo amp around. Maybe even a 212 combo amp. So it's pretty heavy. So the handle that was on there was probably sufficient for carrying this empty, although it never seemed to be even reliable for doing that. For carrying 50 pounds, the handle on there was absolute garbage. And after about 3 trips out of the house just to jam, it completely disintegrated. The aluminum frame of it just sort of peeled open, and the handle, luckily I noticed the handle was about to fall right off. So I fabbed up this aluminum plate, and I took a piece of hydraulic hose and kind of unintentionally sort of made this steampunk handle with some T-fittings and something that will actually support quite easily. And then I put a bunch of screws into the wood, a couple right through from the other side with nuts on them. So now it can be carried. And even before I did that with the old handle, I added 2 more latches here, because what would happen is this panel of wood was so flimsy that with the weight, as you lift the handle, this piece would just bend out, would bow out this way and separate from the other half, and it was making a big gap. And I could tell that the flex here was going to just cause this to prematurely fail. So it came with these 2 latches, but we need something to add some strength to this panel while it's lifting. So that's why these 2 latches are just there. So you can see it's probably been used about 8 or 10 times. Still got the plastic on it. It's not got many miles on it. I'm going to keep it just because it's tough to find a case this big, and selling used gear in my neighborhood will get you about $0. So there's not much point in trying to deal it. But it was pretty pricey. I'd have to look up what I paid for it, but getting it shipped to Canada, of course. Actually, no, I bought it in Canada at Steve's, but it was pretty pricey. I see one now at Rondo Music that I probably would go with. It's probably not as heavy duty looking, but it's a typical, more like a flight case with the aluminum framing, and probably would be much lighter itself, so the weight would be lower, and therefore the stress on the case wouldn't be added, you know, the weight of the case wouldn't add to the stress on the case itself. So there you go. I'll provide a link to the specs on this guy.